Welcome back. Before we begin our journey to the minster, I just wanted to clarify a little more about who is this video for. When I began envisioning this series of videos, I envisioned it for people who have issues with their bodies. And let me explain. If you're a woman who has had an abortion and regret it, and especially if you were pressured into having that abortion. Yes, I do believe that life begins in conception and that the baby in the womb has life, but I also have compassion for the mother. If somebody pressured you into doing that, then they abused you. They were telling you that your female body, which was created by God to in turn create and sustain life, that part of your body didn't mean anything. It didn't have any value for that other person. And it's especially horrendous if the people pressuring you were your parents. That's a form of parental abuse. And you have a right to mourn not just your lost baby, but the abuse that you suffered. And it gets even more worse if they called themselves Christians. And I know it happens. I've heard the stories. If your parents were embarrassed because they thought the good church folk would shame you and your family, then that was abuse. That wasn't just mental and emotional abuse. That was spiritual abuse. They failed to represent God properly before you. God is a God of compassion. When Hagar, the slave, ran away from her abusive mistress, Sarah, yes, that Sarah, Abraham's wife, ran away into the wilderness, or rather, wrong story. When even worse, when Sarah convinced Abraham to send the slave woman Hagar and her child away into the wilderness, didn't care whether they died or not, and Hagar cried out because she thought her child was going to die. God had compassion. He listened and he rescued them. That's the heart of God, not shame, not embarrassment, not fear, and certainly not telling you that you and your body are nothing, have no value, no meaning. So if you are one of those women, you are welcome to come on this pilgrimage with me. If you have gender dysphoria like I do, but you want to come under the umbrella of the church, you want to line your feelings up with the teachings in God's word, then you are welcome as well. I believe that gender dysphoria is a result of the curse of the fall of man. It's another way of the devil trying to drive a wedge between the creation and their creator. Since God created us as originally Adam and Eve as unified bodies and souls, it's just another way for the devil to try and destroy us by driving us away from God. So I believe that the feelings of dysphoria are real. I experienced them growing up. I still do. I believe the feelings are real, but I also believe that you can remain within the teachings of God and the church in dealing with them. I hesitated whether to share this story, but I will, because I want you to get to know me better if we're going to go on this pilgrimage together. You know, it's almost Christmas time as I make this video, and just the other day, my female coworkers were running around exchanging gifts with each other and squealing and crying and, oh, how beautiful. Oh, thank you. Oh, you're my best friend. Just doing women things. Except for me. They didn't give any gifts to me. I might as well have been invisible. And as I experienced that pain, my first reaction was dysphoria. I hate my gender. I hate that I'm not enough of a woman to be included in this female circle of womanliness, of things women do. I hate the way that I'm overlooked, that I guess I'm seen as too manly. I'm not female enough, not considered a woman. That was my instinctive reaction, to hate myself and hate the gender that I was created. And I still wrestle with that. I still wrestle with this. This is an ongoing journey for me. So if this is a journey for you, if you have those feelings too, but you want to remain under the teachings of God, then by all means, you are welcome at this table and to come on this pilgrimage. If you struggle with homosexual desire, like dysphoria, I believe that it is a result of the fall. I do believe that just as God created two genders, man and woman, that marriage is only supposed to be between a man and a woman. However, I also believe that if we as a church want you as homosexuals to remain celibate, then we need to give you something to do in the church. We need to welcome you and love you. And I say this, I'm heterosexual. I have been married to a man for 20 years. I love my husband, Andrew, to death. But I remember what it was like to be a single. I remember this. And, the same thing goes for heterosexual Christian singles. You're welcome to be here too. Just the other day, I was reading a blogger that I highly respect. I was so disappointed when he did this. He was quoting some article. I'm not even going to name the guy. Go Google it. You can find it. He's quoting some article where the guy was wringing his hands saying, oh, Christian singles, they're falling into the temptation of having sex. It's because they're putting off marriage for so long. And, the church is wrong to ask them to take vows of celibacy. The solution is for everybody to get married at 20. If only those selfish Christian singles would just be getting married at 20 and 18 instead of being so selfish and putting marriage off for their careers. I was so mad when I read that. I wanted to throw my laptop right across the room. Has this guy ever talked to a Christian single? Or is he just making this up out of thin air? Have you bothered to talk to a real flesh and blood Christian single? Because let me tell you my story. When I was 18, raised in the church since I was born, Christian from the womb, thank you. When I was 18, there was no 20-year-old evangelical man lining up to marry me. There was none. When I was in high school, I didn't have to worry about getting pregnant because nobody wanted to have sex with me. I never went out on a date in school. Senior prom was the worst night of my life. I'll tell you about that someday later. But there was no 20-year-old Christian man lining up to marry me. So I went off to college. Joined a wonderful campus ministry group. Some of the boys in there had girlfriends. I was never one of them. I was always in the friend zone. Thank you. Graduated from college. Spent several years trying to become a missionary because what? There was no man lining up to marry me. And I thought, being raised in the church, that there was only one thing single women could do. If there was no prospect of marriage on the horizon, become an old maid missionary. And so that's what I did. I wasted several years of my life trying to become a missionary because I thought that's what my life was. Just as Paul says in 1 Corinthians, that if you're single, you have all that time to devote to God. Well, I took that literally and said, okay, I need to become a missionary. Obviously, I failed because I'm not a missionary. But yes, several years of my life. Guess who told me I needed to stop it and move on with my life? My evangelical mother. Yeah, she told me it was okay to get selfish and actually go find a job that I liked. Since Mr. Right wasn't lining up to marry me, go do something that you like. God will honor that. When he's ready for you to serve him, he'll find you. He found Moses out in the middle of the desert. And so, you know what? I listened to my mother. I went off and found a job that I liked, working for an airline, major international airport, and when Mr. Christian Wright walked into my life, mid-30s, thank you, I was able to use my travel benefits to go over to England, where Mr. Christian Wright was waiting to meet me. Mid-30s is when Mr. Christian Wright showed up. And you know how I met him? Not in a church. He was in England. I was in America. I met him online through a dating service. So don't give me this crud about how, Christian singles are so selfish. No, I remember in my American church, it was what you call a big mega church, very welcoming, very loving church. I would go back there again, even though it's a Baptist church. I would still go back there. Great people. I was a part of their singles group there. They had Sunday school groups from baby all the way up to death. Every life stage, or rather age, chronological age, and the singles group, where people of all ages who weren't married were lumped in. And you know what? Every great group loved them. After Sunday school, each Sunday, when we would go into the sanctuary, we would sit all clustered together amidst our congregation, like a group of elephants in a National Geographic special. You ever seen one of those where the elephants go down to the watering hole and whoop, ears perk up, the lions are coming, oh, get together, ooh, form a circle, here come the lions, gotta protect each other. Yeah, that was us. We all sat together, surrounded by this sea of smiling, happy family faces, because that's how we felt. Ew, selfish Christian singles. Why aren't you getting married at 20? Do you know what? In my group, we had people in our 20s. There was nobody lining up to marry them. We had people in our 30s and divorced. You know, I'm not even going to go there on the divorce issue. I'm not even going to go there. I'm rambling on too long. But come meet me in person, honey, and we'll go there. I'll tell you all about it, because we have plenty of divorced people in our group. So, yeah, don't give me this. If you want people, gay or straight, to remain celibate, you are going to have to give them a place in the church. You're going to have to find a place for them, let them know that they are welcomed, that they are loved, and that there are places for them to serve. Oh, that's the other thing. I remember once our Sunday school teacher, who was happily married, stereotypical Christian, he did get married when he was 20, and his girlfriend, high school sweetheart, was 18. Thank you. And so he couldn't understand the world of us modern Christian singles. And so one Sunday he was urging us to get more involved in the church. Oh, that opened up the floodgates. Oh, that opened up the floodgates. And I will never forget what one woman in our group said. She was divorced, had kids who were teenagers. She said that she had tried to get involved in the youth group because her kids were in the youth group and loving it. Tried to volunteer with the youth group. The youth pastor had actually told her that he didn't want her as a volunteer because he didn't want her to set a bad example with her divorce. You are going to have to make your peace, church, with the fact that Christians, gay and straight, are not getting married. And you need to find a place for them to serve, or you're going to keep wondering why your numbers are declining and why all these millennials and all these younger people are finding something else to do with their time. Let me get off my hobby horse here. Sorry, but come get to know me personally. We'll share stories. Been there, done that, sweetheart. There you go. Where was I? Yes, so for gay people, if you struggle with that desire, but you want to remain celibate under the teaching of the church, come here, sweetheart. Come. Oh, my goodness gracious. Gender dysphoria. Oh, don't even get me started on sexual abuse. This whole journey for me started when a dear friend of mine, Christian friend of mine came to me and confessed that she had been sexually abused by a minister. The Catholic Church is not the only ones who have a monopoly on sexual abuse. Protestant Church, are you listening? Because she was abused by a male relative in her family who was a Protestant minister, sexually abused by a Protestant minister. And she tried to tell her good Christian parents, and they ignored it. They swept it under the rug to protect the reputation of this Protestant minister. And my friend had to grow up with this pain of not only the actual abuse, but knowing the people who should have loved her the most, who should have protected her the most, cared more about the reputation of this evil monster who called himself a man of God. And the reason I found this out was because she had run away when she became an adult and cut off contact with her family. And they sent her a letter saying that this relative had died. And they didn't apologize. They didn't show any remorse for what they had done. Just, Uncle Joe is dead now. Don't you want to come back for his funeral? Oh, we can all be hugs and smiles again. And she was sick, physically sick at the idea of having to go see them again and to go to Uncle Joe's funeral and hear what a great man of God he was. This Protestant minister. This monster who stood behind a pulpit. And she said, my biggest regret is that when I became older, I didn't speak out to somebody else because he was a minister. He had access to other children besides me. And how many other victims are there out there that I'll never know about? Then maybe I could have helped if I had said something. So Catholics, you're not the only ones who have a monopoly on this. Monsters are in Protestant pulpits too. And if that's you, if you were a victim, and especially if somebody, your parents, whoever, tried to cover it up, tried to blame you, tried to minimize it, you belong here at this table because you were abused twice, 3 times, whatever you want to call it. The people who abused you, and then the people who tried to make your abuse go away by not acknowledging it and doing something about it. You belong here at this table. Because God is not just a God of love, he's a God of wrath. In Revelation, and we're going to go into this, it talks about how when Jesus returns, there will be justice for all these monsters. Even if they, like Uncle Joe, they don't get justice in this lifetime, there will be justice. When Jesus returns, they will be held accountable. And we'll go into that in so much more detail later. So, by all means, you are so welcome. So welcome here. Okay. A lot of emotion here, so let's take a break for a while. But yeah, I put up this banner for a reason, healing and forgiveness, because You can receive it. You can receive it. In some cases, it wasn't even your fault. So I am so glad to have you on this journey with me. And I look forward to hearing your stories and getting to know you. May the Lord bless you as we continue forward on this journey together. Amen.